Hello, everybody in Nepal. This is Tighe here from the Dicastery for Culture and Education. I'm sure I probably know some of you from my previous work in communications. I think the last time I was with the FABC would have been in 2015 in Myanmar, if I remember correctly. I did make an effort to try and be with you in Nepal, but it proved impossible precisely because we have our own plenary assembly happening in 2 weeks' time, so it wasn't possible to be with you. But I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you, and above all to congratulate you on your choice of topic. This idea of a celebration of synodality and the indigenous living traditions in the ageing church strikes me as an extraordinarily important initiative, and it's something that those of us who work in the sector of culture and who are very anxious to promote the whole idea of what's called intercultural dialogue, the ways in which we learn as a community, that we have much to learn from each other, that we've much to give to each other, and this commitment also to listening to those voices who maybe haven't been traditionally privileged in our conversations and in our understanding of who we are. So what I see you doing in a sense is a celebration of diversity. And more importantly, the synodal approach, which you're committed to, means you're committed to learning from people who seem to have different ways of living, who have different value systems, who have different approaches to our world, listening to them, learning from them, dialoguing with them, and then I think that is also with an aim to help us all to grow together with a sense of community. And this type of dialogue, this type of discussion has long been a priority for Pope Francis. We know that Pope Francis has always from the beginning talked about a church that goes beyond itself, a church in Ushita, a church that reaches beyond, that tries not to close in on itself, on its own issues, on its own problematics, but is engaged and living fully in our world, in a sense as citizens in the world. Two ideas linked to that, as we know, Pope Francis is always talking about vicinanza in Italian, which I'd like to translate either nearness or proximity, that we have a sense of feeling for and fellow feeling with those with whom we share the world, that we don't see ourselves as a separate race, as a distinct people, as a separate reality, but rather we're all together on this journey of life. He often uses the image of the pilgrims. We pilgrim together, we travel together. People who have faith, who are blessed with the gift of faith, who are blessed with a sense of belonging to the church. That doesn't mean we're exempt or we're immune from the problems of the world. It doesn't mean that we can ignore the problems of those who are about us. It means we have an even deeper reason to be committed to working for the good of all. And therefore, I remember one of the first times I met Pope Francis was for a plenary assembly of the then Pontifical Council for Social Communications. And Pope Francis was talking about all the technologies of communication that were then not as elaborate as they are now. But he said the key thing we need to do is enter into our conversations, journey with other people. And the three words I remember he learned were, he said, we need to listen. We start by genuinely listening to other people, listening to their concerns, to their hopes, to their expectations. Then entering into conversation with them, but into a conversation that is rooted in the prior listening, that is willing to take up their questions, to be open and honest with them, not to try and manipulate or anything else, but genuine a conversation where we're trying to listen and speak in a way that respects the questions that have been posed to us. And then in the other one, he said, all our dealings with people should be marked by a sense of encouragement. That whatever else we do, people have lives that are difficult, have problems, have so many things, and we need to encourage them to find a path, to find a way to live fully. And I think in two of the main features of Pope Francis's ministry, we think of two of his big concerns. Those precise values become important. One is his commitment to trying to protect our environment, to create a sustainable future for our world. In Laudato Si, he uses the image that is linked to that. He reminds us we share a common home. We live in this world with others. There's no gated communities where we can separate ourselves out and imagine that somehow we don't have to take seriously the adverse events and the changes that are happening as a result of climate change. So I think we do need to be an urgency in why we need to talk to and learn from each other. The other commitment of Pope Francis very strongly, and this is in Fratelli Tutti, is rediscovering a sense of the unity of the human family, of the people who share this common home, who are united by their existence on this one planet, learn to see each other as brothers and sisters, learn to see each other as companions and as people who share destiny, who share hopes together. And I think the two topics are then intimately linked, because the environmental issues cannot be solved unless we learn to work together, unless we integrate the contributions of people in different societies, in different cultures, in different parts of our world. And I think precisely in that one, it's kind of interesting that in Laudato Si, one of the words that Pope Francis continually uses is he talks about dialogue. Dialogue which creates a culture of encounter. Culture of encounter by which he means that we meet other people deeply, we listen to them, we learn from them. We don't simply bounce off each other as we make our way through the world, but we see ourselves as fellow pilgrims. But this dialogue is amazing. In Laudato Si, how often he talks about dialogue and the various types of dialogues that are necessary. The international level between governments, at the local and national level of politics between different communities. If we have practical responses to climate change, we need the inputs of scientists, of economists and politicians. And he's very clear, we need the input of our religious voices. Our traditions, our ideas, our wisdom, our understanding of what it means to be human and to live well are important. And that's where he also privileges very much the importance of the local traditions, indigenous communities. And in Laudato Si, chapters 145, 146, thereabout, he's very clear that we have a huge amount to learn from more traditional communities. One of the problems as he sees it is that we in the West particularly, and maybe in that mentality that we then gave to many other parts of the world, we're inclined to see the world as a resource to be used, as a material that we exploit. And this, he said, creates a difficulty. We don't have a sense of our own interconnectedness, that the earth is our home, that we need to live in harmony with it. Otherwise, we're going to simply destroy it, use it to extract what we think is useful for us, but not respect the fact that we need the earth. We live in community with the earth. We need to recognize the rhythms and patterns of climate and of environmental change. And there's where I think he's very clear. We've much to learn from maybe traditional communities who have lived closely with the earth, whose own cultures and societies and family structures reflect a living close to and in harmony with the world. The land for them very often is something sacred, something that we're privileged to live in, something with which we live in community, not something simply to be radically used in different ways. So I think we need to enter this dialogue, not paternalistically, but with a genuine openness to learning from people's traditions and ideas, and sometimes traditions that go back far longer than our own traditions, where there's some wisdom that has been gained. A difficulty very often for people there is they may not have the same intellectual categories. They may not have the up-to-date lingo of the environmental debate. But it's up to us to listen, and in listening, to give voice to their perceptions. One thing that I think is always for any form of dialogue, two words I want to leave behind. One is an idea from Justin Welby, the Anglican Archbishop of Canterbury, who spoke about the need for what he calls receptive learning. We begin and we enter into a conversation, not to bring our own perspectives, but genuinely to see, what can I learn? What is this other person to say to me that I won't find within my own tradition, that will fill a lack in me, so that the diversity and the variety of human experience is something we see as a richness and as a resource for all humanity. The final thought I want to leave you with is the synodal approach. Synodal approach, which says dialogue, listening, careful attentiveness to what others are saying, is a way, in a sense, ultimately of listening to God's Spirit, that God speaks to us through other people. And therefore we learn, very often it requires a more contemplative approach. If you remember in Laudato Si number 12, Pope Francis has that lovely idea where he says we have to live our human existence as a joyful mystery to be contemplated and not simply a problem to solve. So I just pray for you at this time. Sorry I can't be with you. I'd love to have seen Catherine too, and to meet all of my friends in Asia again, but simply to thank you for this opportunity to address you and to wish you all the best of what is, having looked at it, a very busy and full program. So I wish you all the best. Thank you.